Hello there, beautiful people. Welcome back to my channel. After a small little break from YouTube, I'm finally back with another video, and in this video we are painting this beautiful floral meadow. I am so happy with the way it has turned out, and I'm so excited to take you through the process. So gather all your supplies and let's get started. I've taped down my paper on all four sides, and the paper that I'm using for today's project is this Strathmore watercolor paper of 300 GSM. I really like the texture of the paper, and that is why I've picked that out because it works amazingly with gouache. So the first thing that we're going to do is make a sketch, right? So we need to know what goes where. So if you're going to paint this and practice this on your own, I'm also linking down the reference picture that I've used for this artwork in the description box. So make sure that you check that out, because that way you will be able to understand how I'm taking reference from the picture that I have to make an artwork that way. So for the sky, I'm using this color Intense Blue by Winsor and Newton. So you can use any blue that you have available with you. Add a bit of white, like a lot of white, to get a really nice and light color, and spread it evenly in the sky part using a flat brush. So flat brushes work really well, especially when you have to cover larger area and give flat washes. The next thing that I'm going to do is paint the hills, right? So for the hills, what I'm going to do, I'm adding a little bit of purple and a bit of black to the same blue mixture that I had for the sky. And what you have to keep in mind here is that the three hills that we have sketched out, the furthermost hill is going to have a lighter color as compared to the ones that is closer to us. So that way, just keep adding a bit of black and purple to the mixture to make the color slightly darker than the one that you used before, and cover all the three mountains that way. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint the foreground. So for the foreground, I'm going to use a mixture of sap green and black to get a dark green mixture, and I'm going to lay it on the front part of my ground. This is going to be the background color on which we'll be laying the field of flowers. So go ahead and cover the front area. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint the trees at the horizon. So I'm using my size 0 brush, and I'm taking black and a bit of green to it to get a really dark green mixture. And using this, I'm going to make the trees at the horizon. So using the size 0 brush is really important because you get really fine lines with it, which makes it very easier for us to get the slightest, smallest strokes for the trees at the horizon. While making the trees at the horizon, one thing that you should keep in mind is that you're not making all of the trees of the same height. When we make trees of different heights and sizes, it just gives us a lot of depth in our painting and gives us an illusion that the taller trees are a lot closer to the observer, while the shorter trees are further away. So make sure that you keep that in mind and give a lot of variation to your trees. assuming that the light is falling directly on my trees from the left side, so it's going to have a lot of highlights. So for making the highlights, I'm adding sap green to my same mixture and a bit of white, and then I'm going to apply to the left side of my tree in random order. So just like how we made the strokes for the tree, we are going to apply these highlights on the left side of the tree. I decided to add a little tiny bush in front of the trees on the left side, so that is what you're seeing me add details to here. So yeah, if you choose, you can completely ignore this step as well, but I felt like I needed to add a little bush and a lot of details near the left side, so I just went ahead and made like a little shrub. It's time to start adding the most time-consuming part of this painting, that is to add the field of flowers. So I've started adding the field of flowers from the right side, and I'm going with really tiny little dots. So this just is because these flowers are really further away from the observer, so he's not able to see the details of the flowers, but rather he can see these little shapes at the distance. So that is why I'm just making these little tiny dots. And the whole part when you're making the field of flowers is to like, what we have to keep in mind majorly is that you're working in layers. So you do one layer of flowers, then you make a few bushes or the stems, and then you go ahead and make flowers again and then stems again. So that is just one thing that you have to keep in mind. And since these flowers are really farther away, we don't need to pay a lot of attention to the stems, but rather we can just make these little dots. But as we move closer to the observer, we need to give tiny details for the stems as well. So for the stems, you can use the green mixture, add a bit of white so that the stems stand out on your dark background color. And that's, like I mentioned, you have to work in layers, so that is exactly what you will see me do. So I'll be making the stems, then I'll be adding the flowers on top, then I'll go ahead and make a few other layers of stems and then flowers on top of that as well. So yeah, like I mentioned, this whole part is about working in layers, so keep doing that until you cover the entire area of the green that we have painted. I went ahead and added a darker green color for the remaining part of my foreground, and then using like an almost black color, I'm going to add the shadows for my stems. So using a darker green or almost black color, I've added the shadows and then moved on to working in layers for my field of flowers. One more thing that you have to keep in mind is as you're getting closer to the observer, your stems and the flowers, the sizes are going to get bigger as they were near the horizon. So you have to keep in mind, this way it gives us the depth in our painting, gives us the illusion that we're looking for. That is, if I were to stand in the field of flowers, the flowers that are closer to me are going to appear bigger, and the ones that are really further away will appear smaller, right? So for that, you have to keep in mind that you're moving and making the tiniest flowers at the horizon, and as they get closer to the observer, the sizes have to increase. So keep that in mind while you're painting the field of flowers. Using a mixture of white and the orange that I used for the flowers, I'm going to go ahead and add the highlights to the flowers that are closer to the observer. keeping in mind that the light is coming from the left side. So do that, add a few little stems wherever necessary, and that is it. This is your painting, and here's a really satisfying tape peel. Doesn't it look beautiful? I was so happy when I painted this, and I was super excited to share this with you. Let me know what you think about this in the comments section below, and don't forget to give this a like. Do subscribe to my channel for more art videos, and if you give this a try, don't forget to share it with me on Instagram, and do use the hashtag paintwithtsa. I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.